The ships appeared without warning on a Tuesday morning. They were massive and dark, and they blocked out the sun over 12 major cities across Earth. Admiral Krenth stood on the bridge of his command vessel and looked down at the blue planet below. He had done this 47 times before with 47 different worlds. Each time the result was the same. The primitives looked up at his fleet and they surrendered within hours or days at most. Some tried to fight with their crude weapons, but it never lasted long. The Valorian Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, and no one could stand against them. Krenth activated the communication system and waited for Earth's leaders to respond. A woman appeared on his screen. She had gray hair and tired eyes and wore a simple dark suit. Her name was Linda Hayes, and she was the Secretary General of the United Earth Council. Krenth had seen thousands of leaders like her. They all had the same look when they realized their world was about to be conquered. "I am Admiral Krenth of the Valorian Empire," he said in the common trade language that his computers would translate for the primitives. "Your world has been selected for integration into the Empire. You will surrender all military forces within 72 hours. You will provide a full accounting of your resources and population. You will accept Valorian governors who will oversee your transition into the Empire. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of your major cities and the deaths of millions. These terms are not negotiable." Linda Hayes listened to his words without expression. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke in a calm and steady voice. "We have received your demands, Admiral. Earth declines to surrender." Krenth felt his mandibles click together in amusement. They always said no at first. It was pride or stupidity or both. "You have 72 hours to reconsider. When that time expires, we will demonstrate our power by destroying one of your uninhabited regions. After you see what we can do, you will surrender." "They always do." Linda Hayes smiled then. It was a small smile that barely touched her lips. But there was something in that smile that made Krenth pause. It was not fear. It was not desperation. It was something else entirely. Something that looked almost like satisfaction. "Take all the time you need, Admiral," she said. "We will be here." The transmission ended. Krenth ordered his fleet to prepare for the demonstration strike. He chose a location in what the humans called Australia. It was a vast empty desert where no one lived. The plasma cannons would turn the sand into glass, and the humans would see the crater from their satellites. Then they would understand. Then they would surrender. Deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, a different conversation was taking place. General Peter Collins sat in a command center that had been built 50 years ago. The room was filled with screens and computers and officers who moved with quiet efficiency. Lieutenant Sophie Grant turned from her console and looked at the general. She was young and blonde, and she had been trained for this moment since she joined the military. "Sir, the Valorian fleet is in position," she said. "They are preparing to fire on the Australian outback in approximately 71 hours. Should we begin evacuation protocols?" Peter shook his head. He was an old man now with white hair and deep lines in his face. He had spent 30 years preparing for this day. "No evacuations. Begin Operation Homecoming. Send the activation codes to all sites." Sophie's fingers moved across her keyboard. Around the world, similar commands were being sent to similar bunkers. In Antarctica and Greenland and the Sahara Desert and at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, massive doors were beginning to open. Weapon systems that had been hidden for decades were coming online. Capacitors that could power a small city were charging up. Railguns that could accelerate metal to near light speed were calibrating their targeting systems. Peter watched the status reports flood in. Site Omega online, Site Alpha online, Site Typhon online. 43 facilities scattered across the planet, all reporting ready status. He thought about the man who had made all this possible. The man who had given humanity the warning and the knowledge and the time they needed. The man who was buried now in a simple grave outside this very bunker. His name had been Thex, and he had been Valorian. 70 years ago, he had been a scientist working for the Empire. He had helped design their weapons and their shields and their faster-than-light drives. But he had also been different from others of his kind. He had questioned the Empire's right to conquer and destroy. He had wondered if there might be another way. When the Empire sent him to observe Earth, he had seen something in humanity that changed him forever. Thex had made contact with Earth's governments in secret. He had told them about the Empire and its thousands of ships and its millions of conquered worlds. He had told them that one day the Empire would come to Earth. And when that day came, humanity would have two choices: surrender or be destroyed. unless they prepared, unless they learned, unless they built weapons that could stand against the Empire. For 20 years, Thex had lived on Earth. He had shared Valorian technology and science. He had taught human engineers how to build plasma shields and railguns and ships that could travel faster than light. He had shown them the weak points in Valorian armor and tactics. He had given humanity everything they needed to survive, and then he had died peacefully in his sleep at the age of 417. He had asked to be buried on Earth, because he said it was the only world in the galaxy that gave him hope. Peter had been a young officer when he first met Thex. He remembered the strange alien with his calm voice and his sad eyes. He remembered Thex saying that humans were different from other species, that they were adaptable and creative and dangerously stubborn, that if anyone could stand against the Empire it would be them, but only if they prepared, only if they worked in secret, only if they were patient. Now the time for patience was over. The Empire had come just as Thex had warned, and humanity was ready. Peter pressed a button on his console and spoke into the microphone. All stations, this is Collins. Operation Homecoming is active. We are at Condition 1. Prepare to engage. Across the planet, thousands of men and women heard those words. They had trained for years for this moment. Their parents and grandparents had trained before them. Entire generations had lived with the secret that Earth was not defenseless, that humanity had teeth, and now they were going to show the galaxy what happened when you threatened a world that had spent 70 years preparing for war. 72 hours passed in silence. Earth sent no more transmissions, no desperate pleas for mercy, no offers to negotiate. The planet simply waited as the countdown ticked toward zero. Admiral Krenth found the silence strange, but he had seen strange things before. Some species went quiet before they surrendered. It was a kind of shock, he supposed. The reality of their situation finally sinking in. When the timer reached zero, Krenth gave the order to fire. 12 plasma cannons on his flagship charged up and released their energy in brilliant blue beams. The beams cut through space and entered Earth's atmosphere. They struck the red earth of the Australian desert with enough force to vaporize mountains and boil stone. The energy release was equivalent to 50 nuclear weapons detonating simultaneously. Krenth watched the strike on his sensors. He expected to see a massive crater. He expected to see sand turn to glass and rock turn to vapor. Instead, his sensors showed something impossible. The strike had been absorbed. The beams had hit some kind of shield array buried beneath the surface. The ground had not even scorched. Impossible, Krenth said. His voice was quiet, but everyone on the bridge heard him. No species develops planetary shields before spaceflight. It violates the natural order of technological progression. His tactical officer was a nervous creature named Velis. He brought up new readings on the main display. Admiral, we are detecting massive power signatures across the planet. They are activating something. Multiple somethings. The power output is enormous. Krenth stared at the display. Red dots were appearing all over Earth, hundreds of them. Each one represented a facility coming online. Each one was drawing enough power to light up his sensors from orbit. What are they? I do not know, Admiral. The energy signatures are consistent with weapon systems, but the scale is all wrong. Nothing this primitive should have this much power. On Earth, Commander Jake Morrison stood in the control center of Site Omega. The facility was carved into the rock of the Nevada desert. Above him, massive doors were sliding open to reveal the sky. He could see the Valorian ships hanging there like dark stars. He pressed the activation sequence he had memorized years ago. Railgun batteries 1 through 90 coming online, he reported into his headset. Capacitors at full charge. Targeting solutions locked, awaiting authorization to fire. Similar reports were flooding in from every site. Antarctica had 40 railgun batteries ready. Greenland had 60. The Sahara had 120. The Pacific Ocean floor had installations that could rise to the surface and fire. The moon's far side had launch facilities that no Valorian sensor had ever detected. Humanity had spent 70 years building an arsenal in secret. Now it was time to use it. General Peter Collins heard all the reports. He sat in his command center and watched the tactical display. Every weapons platform on Earth was online. Every ship hidden in the moon bases was ready to launch. 50,000 men and women were at their stations. He thought about all the people who had worked on this project and died before seeing it completed. He thought about Thex, who had given them the knowledge. He thought about his own daughter, who was commanding one of the moon base ships. Then he gave the order. All sites, this is Collins. You are authorized to fire. Show them what humans can do. Jake Morrison pressed the firing button. The railgun battery spun up with a sound like thunder. Electromagnetic fields accelerated a tungsten rod the size of a telephone pole from 0 to 70% of light speed in less than a second. The rod left the atmosphere before the sound of its passage reached the ground. It crossed the distance to the Valorian flagship in 3.2 seconds. Admiral Krenth saw the projectile coming, but there was no time to react. The tungsten rod struck his ship dead center. It punched through the hull like paper. It passed through 12 decks, converting its kinetic energy to heat as it went. The ship did not explode. It simply split in half. Krenth was thrown from his chair as the bridge lost atmosphere. Emergency fields snapped into place, but the ship was dying. Through the chaos, he heard Velis screaming. Multiple launches. Hundreds of launches. All across the planet. Kinetic projectiles inbound. The rest of the Valorian fleet tried to scatter. Captains who had never faced real combat suddenly had to make decisions in microseconds. Some tried to raise shields. Some tried to evade. Some tried to return fire. None of it mattered. The railguns fired again and again. Each shot was a telephone pole of dense metal moving at relativistic speeds. Each shot carried enough kinetic energy to shatter a warship. 43 Valorian ships died in the first volley. Their hulls cracked open like eggs. Their reactors went critical. Their crews died without time to scream. The survivors tried to retreat to lunar orbit, but they were not safe there either. The moon's far side opened up and ships began launching. Human ships built with Valorian technology and improved with human engineering. Captain Diane Foster commanded the ESS Liberty. She was 45 years old and had spent 20 years training for this mission. Her ship and 50 others had been built in facilities carved into the moon's rock. They had been hidden from Valorian sensors by stealth technology that Thex had provided. Now they launched into the black and their railguns added to the destruction. All ships, this is Liberty Actual. Diane transmitted on the command frequency. Execute attack pattern Sierra. Stay mobile. Hit them from unexpected angles. Do not give them time to organize. These people are used to fighting opponents who follow rules. Let us show them what predators look like. The Liberty dove toward a cluster of Valorian cruisers. Lieutenant Chris Yang sat at the tactical station. He was young and had never seen combat before, but his hands were steady on the controls. Targeting solution locked. 3 cruisers in formation. Range 4,000 kilometers. Fire all batteries, Diane ordered. The Liberty's railguns spoke. 6 tungsten rods accelerated to killing speed. 3 Valorian cruisers tried to evade, but they were too slow. The rods punched through their shields like they were not there. Metal screamed and reactors failed, and 3 more ships joined the debris field. Chris checked his display. That is 12 confirmed kills for the Liberty, Captain. The Valorians are trying to establish a defensive sphere, but they keep getting flanked. I do not think they know how to fight an enemy that refuses to engage head-on. Diane smiled. It was not a kind smile. Then let us keep teaching them. Helm, take us through that debris field. Weapons prepare spread pattern Omega. The Liberty vanished into a cloud of shattered metal and frozen atmosphere. The Valorian sensors lost track of her. When she emerged on the opposite side, 3 enemy destroyers were exposed. They had thought the debris field would hide them. They were wrong. The Liberty fired and 3 more ships died. On Earth, people gathered in public squares to watch the battle on giant screens. There was no panic. No riots, no chaos. Instead, there was a strange calm. Some people cheered when enemy ships exploded. Others watched in silence. Everyone had known this day would come. Every child on Earth had grown up learning about the Valorian Empire in school. They had been taught that someday the Empire would arrive, and that when it did, humanity would be ready. In Colorado, General Peter Collins watched the tactical display. Red icons representing Valorian ships were disappearing one by one. Blue icons representing human ships were moving through the battle space like wolves hunting elk. His command staff reported kill counts and ammunition expenditure and damage assessments. So far, not a single human ship had been destroyed. The Valorians had not managed to land a single effective hit. We have reduced their fleet to 47 ships, Lieutenant Sophie Grant reported. They are attempting to retreat toward the asteroid belt. Peter nodded slowly. Let them run. Phase 3 is already in motion. Admiral Krenth was alive, but his flagship was not. He had transferred to the cruiser Sword of Valor, and now commanded what remained of his fleet from its bridge. Of the 200 ships he had brought to Earth, only 47 survived. The rest were debris floating in orbit or burning up in the atmosphere. He had lost more ships in 3 hours than the Empire had lost in the last century. The human ships pursued them like sharks following blood in water. They did not fight with honor or formation. They appeared from behind asteroids and fired and vanished again. They used the debris of destroyed Valorian ships as cover. They coordinated their attacks with a precision that spoke of years of training. Krenth had fought pirates and rebels in independent colonies, but he had never faced anything like this. How did they develop this technology? Krenth demanded. He was speaking to anyone who would listen. To his officers. To himself. To the empty space around him. They should not have plasma shields. They should not have railguns. They should not have ships that can match ours. It takes a species thousands of years to reach this level. His science officer was named Pelth. She was old and had served the Empire for most of her long life. She brought up historical records on her console and her face went pale as she read them. Admiral, there is something you should see. 70 years ago, a scientist named Thex requested transfer to our observation post in this sector. He said he wanted to study primitive species and their development. Krenth felt something cold settle in his stomach. Thex was monitoring Earth. Yes, Admiral. According to these records, he filed regular reports for the first 10 years. Then the report stopped. The Empire assumed he had died or gone native. No one investigated because the post was deemed unimportant. But Admiral, there is more. Thex was not just any scientist. He was one of the Empire's leading minds in weapons development and shield technology. He designed the plasma cannons we use. He created the stealth systems for our reconnaissance ships. If he gave that knowledge to the humans and if they improved upon it, she did not need to finish the sentence. Krenth understood. The humans had not developed this technology on their own. They had been given it by a traitor. A Valorian who had decided his own people were wrong, who had chosen to help primitives fight back against the Empire. The thought made Krenth feel sick. It also made him furious. Send a priority transmission to the Empire, Krenth ordered. Tell them Earth is not a primitive world. Tell them we need reinforcements. Tell them to send everything they can spare. These humans are dangerous. Pelth worked at her console. Her fingers moved quickly, but then she stopped. Admiral, the transmission is being jammed. Some kind of quantum disruptor. I cannot punch through it. On Earth, Commander Jake Morrison sat in the Orbital Defense Satellite Watcher 9. His station was one of dozens that ringed the planet. Each one had sensors and weapons and communications equipment. One of the things Thex had taught humanity was how to jam Valorian faster-than-light communications. The disruptor was surprisingly simple. It just created a quantum field that scattered the transmission particles. Jake activated it now and smiled when his computer confirmed the Valorian message had been blocked. Communication jammed, he reported to Colorado. They cannot call for help. General Peter Collins received the report and nodded. Everything was going according to plan. The Valorians were running and they could not warn their empire. Now it was time to make sure none of them escaped. He opened a channel to the fleet. All ships, this is Collins. You are authorized for pursuit. The Valorian fleet cannot be allowed to reach the heliopause. They cannot be allowed to jump to faster than light speed. This ends here. Captain Diane Foster received the orders on the bridge of the Liberty. She looked at her crew and saw determination on every face. Lieutenant Chris Yang was already plotting an intercept course. Lieutenant Amy Pierce at the navigation station was calculating burn times. Engineer Kyle Stone was monitoring the reactor to make sure they had power for a long chase. Where are they headed? Diane asked. Amy checked her display. They are running for the heliopause, Captain. They need to clear the sun's gravity well before they can jump to faster than light. At their current speed, they will reach the jump point in 14 hours. How long for us to catch them? If we go to maximum burn, we can intercept in 12 hours. Diane leaned back in her chair. 14 hours. Plenty of time. Set pursuit course. Maximum burn. All ships follow the Liberty's lead. Let us show these people what happens when they threaten Earth. The human fleet accelerated. Their engines burned bright in the darkness. They were faster than the Valorian ships because Thex had taught them how to build better reactors. They were more efficient because human engineers had improved on his designs. The gap between the fleets began to close. Aboard the Sword of Valor, Admiral Krenth watched the pursuit. His ships were damaged and low on ammunition. Many had lost shields or weapons in the battle at Earth. The human ships behind them were fresh and fast, and they were gaining. Krenth knew he would not make it to the heliopause. He knew his fleet would be caught and destroyed. But he did not understand why. "We are the Valorian Empire," he said quietly. "We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have ships and soldiers beyond counting. How can one primitive planet defeat us?" Pelth looked up from her console. She had been studying the human tactics and technology. "Admiral, they are not primitive. They have not been primitive for 70 years. Thex gave them knowledge, but they did something with it that no other species has done. They improved it. Every weapon system they have is based on our technology, but it is better. Their railguns fire faster and hit harder. Their shields absorb more energy. Their ships are more maneuverable. They took what Thex gave them and made it their own." "Why?" Krenth asked. "Why would Thex do this? Why would he betray the Empire?" Pelth was quiet for a moment. Then she brought up one of Thex's old reports. It was from 60 years ago, one of the last transmissions before he went silent. She read it aloud. "I have been observing the humans for 10 years now. They are unique among all the species I have studied. They are violent and creative and stubborn beyond reason, but they are also capable of great compassion and cooperation. I have watched them struggle with their own nature. I have watched them build and destroy and build again. The Empire will come for them one day, and when that day comes, I fear we will have made a terrible mistake. Because humans do not surrender. They adapt. They learn. They fight, and I believe they will teach the rest of the galaxy to do the same." Krenth listened to the words. He thought about all the species the Empire had conquered. Most had surrendered quickly. Those who fought had used the same tactics over and over. They formed lines and fired volleys and followed the rules of warfare that every civilized species understood. But humans did not follow those rules. They fought like animals, like predators who saw weakness and exploited it without mercy. "Admiral, the human fleet is 4 hours behind us in closing," an officer reported. "We will not make the heliopause in time." Krenth looked at his crew. Young and old, soldiers who had believed the Empire was invincible. Now they knew better. "All ships prepare for final battle. We may not survive, but we will show them that Valorians die fighting." Behind them, the Liberty and 50 other human ships closed the distance. Diane Foster sat in her chair and watched the tactical display. The red icons representing enemy ships were so close now. She thought about her father who had worked on the Liberty's construction and died before seeing her launched. She thought about Thex who had given humanity hope. She thought about every person on Earth who had kept the secret and worked toward this moment. "Range to target," she asked. Chris checked his sensors. 3 hours, Captain. They are preparing to turn and fight." "Good," Diane said. "Let them. We will show them what Earth is capable of." The final battle took place near Neptune's orbit. Admiral Krenth ordered his 47 remaining ships to form a defensive sphere. It was a classic Valorian formation designed to provide overlapping fields of fire. Every ship could support its neighbors. Every angle of approach was covered. It was the formation that had won 1,000 battles across the galaxy. Krenth hoped it would be enough. The human fleet did not charge headlong into the sphere. Captain Diane Foster led her ships in a wide arc that brought them toward the Valorian formation from multiple vectors simultaneously. The Liberty approached from above. 10 other ships came from below. 20 more split left and right. The remaining ships held back as a reserve. It was a coordinated attack that required perfect timing and communication. It was the kind of maneuver that took years to master. "All ships fire on my mark," Diane transmitted. She watched the tactical display as the range counter ticked down. 3,000 kilometers. 2,000. 1,000. "Mark! 50 human ships fired as one." 200 railgun projectiles crossed the distance in seconds. The Valorian sphere tried to concentrate their defensive fire, but they could not track targets coming from so many directions. Tungsten rods punched through shields and hulls. Ships exploded or went dark. The sphere formation collapsed as vessels died or broke away. Admiral Krenth watched 12 of his ships vanish from his display in the first volley. The humans reloaded and fired again. 8 more ships died. The Sword of Valor shook as a projectile grazed its shields. Krenth grabbed his command chair to steady himself. Around him, officers shouted damage reports and tactical updates. None of it mattered. The battle was already lost. "Return fire," Krenth ordered anyway. "Target the lead ship. Concentrate all plasma cannons on it." The remaining Valorian ships turned their weapons on the Liberty. Blue beams of superheated plasma lanced across space. Most missed as the Liberty jinked and rolled. 2 beams struck her shields dead on. The shields flared bright but held. Thex's technology combined with human improvements made them stronger than anything the Valorians had seen before. Lieutenant Chris Yang monitored the shield status. Shields at 87%, Captain. No damage to the hull. Their weapons are not strong enough to penetrate. Return fire, Diane said calmly. Target that cruiser on our left. Full spread. The Liberty's railgun spoke again. The targeted cruiser tried to evade, but it was too slow. 3 tungsten rods struck it in quick succession. The ship broke apart in a flash of light and debris. Diane did not watch it die. She was already calling out the next target. Destroyer at bearing 045. All ships focus fire. The human fleet moved through the Valorian formation like wolves among sheep. They did not stay still. They did not trade shots in formation. They kept moving and firing and moving again. Every time a Valorian ship tried to get a lock, they were somewhere else. Every time the Valorians tried to regroup, the humans attacked from a new angle. Aboard the Sword of Valor, Pelth watched the battle with a growing sense of horror. Admiral, we have lost 31 ships. Only 16 remain functional. We cannot win this engagement. Krenth knew she was right. He had known it since Earth. Maybe he had known it since Thex disappeared 70 years ago. The Empire had become arrogant. They had conquered for so long that they forgot what it meant to face a real enemy. An enemy that had prepared. An enemy that refused to follow the rules. An enemy that wanted to win more than they feared death. Open a channel to the human flagship, Krenth said quietly. I wish to speak with their commander. Pelth worked her console. A moment later, Captain Diane Foster appeared on the main screen. She was human and small by Valorian standards, but there was nothing weak in her expression. She looked at Krenth with cold eyes and waited for him to speak. I am Admiral Krenth, he said. I command what remains of the Valorian Expeditionary Fleet. I wish to discuss terms of surrender. Diane was quiet for a moment. Then she shook her head. No. Krenth felt confusion and then anger. You would deny us the honor of surrender? That is not civilized. That is not how warfare is conducted. You came to Earth and demanded we surrender. Diane replied. Her voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. You threatened to destroy our cities and kill millions if we refused. You were going to conquer us and take our freedom and make us slaves of your empire. Now you want us to show you mercy? We are defeated, Krenth said. We accept that. Allow my remaining ships to return to the Empire. We will tell them that Earth is too strong to conquer. You will be left alone. Diane leaned forward. No, Admiral. You do not understand. We are not fighting this battle to make you leave us alone. We are fighting this battle to end the Empire. Krenth stared at her. That is madness. The Empire has thousands of ships. Millions of soldiers. You have destroyed one fleet. Do you think that will stop us? Yes, Diane said simply. Because this is not just about defeating you. This is about showing every conquered species in the galaxy that the Empire can be beaten. Right now you rule through fear. You make species believe that resistance is impossible, but we are going to prove that is a lie. By killing us all? No, Admiral. By making sure that when you return home you tell them exactly what happened here. You will tell them that Earth was ready. That Earth was strong. That Earth destroyed your fleet without losing a single ship. And then you will watch as every species you ever conquered starts to wonder if they could do the same thing. Krenth felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Fear. Real fear. Not for himself, but for the Empire. Because he understood now what Thex had done. The scientist had not just given humans technology. He had given them hope. And hope was the most dangerous weapon of all. What do you want from me? Krenth asked. I want you to take your remaining ships and run, Diane said. I want you to tell the Empire everything. Tell them about Thex. Tell them how he helped us. Tell them that we spent 70 years preparing for this day. Tell them that we won. And tell them that if they come back, we will be ready again. 'Cause that is what humans do, Admiral. We prepare, we adapt. We survive, and we never forget. The transmission ended. Diane turned to her crew. All ships cease fire. Let them go. Chris looked up from his tactical station. Captain, we have them. We could finish this now. I know, Diane said. But we need them to go home. We need them to spread the word. The Valorians have to know that Earth is not prey, and every other species in the galaxy needs to know that the Empire can bleed. The human fleet held position as the 16 surviving Valorian ships turned and fled. They accelerated toward the heliopause at maximum burn. Behind them, the Liberty and the rest of the human fleet watched them go. When the Valorian ships jumped to faster than light speed and vanished, Chris let out a breath he had been holding. "They are gone, Captain." Diane nodded. She thought about all the people who had worked to make this moment possible. Engineers who had built the ships and weapons, soldiers who had trained for decades, scientists who had studied Valorian technology and improved it, her father who had spent his life working in the lunar shipyards, Thex who had given humanity the chance to survive. All of them had made this victory possible. "Set course for Earth," she ordered. "Let us go home." The human fleet turned and began the long journey back to the blue planet. Behind them, Neptune hung silent in the darkness. Somewhere in the debris field that surrounded it were the remains of 184 Valorian warships. It was a graveyard that would orbit the ice giant for centuries, a monument to the day Earth said no to the galaxy and made it stick. 3 months passed before the Valorian Empire learned what had happened at Earth. Admiral Krenth's 16 surviving ships limped home through a dozen star systems. Every port they stopped at saw the damage to their hulls. Every species they encountered heard whispers of their defeat. By the time Krenth reached the Empire's capital world, the story had spread across half the galaxy. The invincible Valorians had been beaten by primitives. The Empire that had ruled for 3,000 years had lost an entire fleet. Krenth was called before the High Council. They were the oldest and most powerful Valorians in existence. 5 beings who had lived for thousands of years and guided the Empire through its rise to dominance. They sat in a chamber carved from black stone, and they listened as Krenth told his story. He told them about Earth and the humans. He told them about Thex and the 70 years of preparation. He told them about railguns that fired at near light speed and shields that could absorb plasma cannon fire. He told them about ships that fought without honor or formation. He told them about a species that refused to surrender. When he finished, the council chamber was silent. The eldest of the council was a being named Vorath. He had led the Empire for 2,000 years. He spoke in a voice like grinding stone. "You are saying that one planet destroyed 184 of our ships?" "Yes, High Council," Krenth replied. "And they did not lose a single vessel in return. They were too fast, too coordinated, too prepared. They knew everything about us and we knew nothing about them." Another council member named Tresh leaned forward. "This traitor Thex, he gave them our technology?" "He gave them the foundation," Krenth said. "But they improved upon it, made it better. Their weapons are more powerful than ours. Their defenses are stronger. High Council, we must be cautious. If we attack Earth again, they will be even more ready than before." Vorath was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke again. "The Empire does not accept defeat. We will assemble a grand fleet, 5,000 ships, 10,000. We will return to Earth and burn their world to ash. No species defies us and survives." Far across the galaxy, Earth had not been idle. The victory over the Valorian fleet had proven that humanity could defend itself. But General Peter Collins knew defense was not enough. The Empire would come again with more ships and more anger. Earth needed allies. They needed other species who would stand with them, and they needed to strike first before the Empire could gather its strength. Ambassador. Nicole Wright stood in a shuttle descending toward the planet Tarleth Prime. The Tarleth were one of the oldest species conquered by the Valorian Empire. They had been subjects for 800 years. Their world was governed by Valorian officials and their resources were taken to fuel the Empire's expansion. But now Nicole was bringing them a message of hope and freedom and resistance. The shuttle landed in the capital city. Nicole was met by a security escort that took her to the planetary council chambers. The Tarleth Council consisted of 23 members. They were tall and thin with blue skin and large eyes. They looked at Nicole with a mixture of curiosity and fear. Humans were unknown to them. Earth had been isolated from the galaxy until now. Nicole stood before the council and spoke in a clear voice. "Honored council members, I am Ambassador Nicole Wright of Earth. I come with a message from my people to yours. The Valorian Empire recently sent a fleet to conquer my world. They demanded our surrender and threatened to destroy our cities if we refused. We said no, and we won." The council chamber erupted in noise. 23 voices speaking at once in a language that Nicole's translator struggled to keep up with. Questions and exclamations and disbelief. Finally, the eldest council member raised his hand for silence. His name was Elder Tom, and he had lived through centuries of Valorian rule. "You are saying humans defeated a Valorian fleet?" Elder Tom said slowly. "That is not possible. No species has successfully resisted the Empire in 1,000 years. It is possible because we were prepared, Nicole replied. 70 years ago, a Valorian scientist named Thex came to Earth. He was disillusioned with the Empire's conquest. He believed it was wrong to take freedom from other species. He gave us knowledge and technology. He warned us that the Empire would come one day. And when they did come, we were ready. We destroyed 184 of their ships without losing a single one of our own. The council members stared at her. Elder Tom's hands trembled slightly. Why are you telling us this? Because Earth offers an alliance to any species willing to fight for their freedom, Nicole said. The Valorian Empire rules through fear. They make you believe resistance is impossible, but it is not impossible. We proved that, and we will help you prove it too. We have the weapons. We have the technology. We have the will. All you need to provide is the courage to stand up and say no. Another council member stood. His name was Speaker Vex, and he was younger and more aggressive than Elder Tom. What do you want in return? No species offers help without expecting something back. Nicole met his eyes. When this is over and the Empire has fallen, we want you to remember that freedom is worth fighting for. We want you to never let anyone take it from you again. That is all. The council chamber fell silent. 23 beings looked at each other. Centuries of oppression had taught them to be cautious, to accept their fate, to believe that resistance only brought suffering. But now this human stood before them offering something they had not felt in 800 years. Hope. Elder Tom spoke slowly. If we join you, the Empire will retaliate. They will send ships to crush us. Our people will die. Your people are dying now, Nicole replied quietly. Slowly, in mines and factories and forced labor camps. You are dying because the Empire takes everything from you and gives nothing back. At least if you fight, you die with the chance to be free, and you will not fight alone. Earth will stand with you. We will send ships and weapons and soldiers. We will teach you what Thex taught us. Together we can win. The council voted. It took 3 hours of debate and argument and fear. But in the end, the vote was unanimous. The Tarlith would join Earth's alliance. They would fight for their freedom. Elder Tom signed the treaty with a hand that shook but did not hesitate. As he pressed his seal to the document, he looked at Nicole. When the Empire learns of this, they will send everything they have against us, he said. Are you truly ready for that? Nicole smiled. It was the same smile that Linda Hayes had given Admiral Krenth months ago. The smile of someone who had been preparing for exactly this moment. Elder Tom, the Empire declared war on Earth, and we smiled as if we had been waiting. We were waiting. For 70 years we built and trained and prepared. Now we are done waiting. Now we are coming for them. The news spread across the galaxy faster than the Valorian Council could react. The Tarlith had joined Earth, then the Kresh joined, then the Voln and the Pathari and the Drell. Within 6 months, 12 species had signed the alliance. 12 worlds that had been conquered and broken and forced to serve the Empire. Now they were standing up. Now they were building weapons. Now they were training soldiers. On Earth, General Peter Collins stood in a cemetery outside Colorado Springs. He visited this cemetery once a month without fail. There was a grave here marked with a simple stone. The inscription read, "Here lies Thex, who chose conscience over conquest and gave humanity the greatest gift of all." Time to prepare. Peter placed fresh flowers on the grave. They were blue like the plasma beams that had once threatened Earth. Like the blue planet that now stood as a symbol of resistance. He spoke quietly to the stone. They came just like you said they would, old friend. And we were ready just like you taught us. Now we are teaching others. 12 species so far. More every week. The Empire is going to come for us with everything they have. But we will be ready for that too. Because you did not just give us technology, Thex. You gave us something more important. You gave us the belief that we could win. Across the galaxy in the Blackstone Chamber, the Valorian High Council continued to debate. Voreth wanted to send the Grand Fleet immediately. Others argued for caution. While they argued, Earth's alliance grew stronger. Shipyards that had been building Valorian vessels now built weapons for the resistance. Mining colonies that had been extracting resources for the Empire now armed themselves. Slowly but surely, the galaxy was waking up. Admiral Krenth had been reassigned to a desk job processing supply reports. His career was over. His reputation destroyed. But sometimes late at night he would look at the star charts and find the small yellow star where Earth orbited. He would remember Captain Diane Foster and her cold eyes. He would remember her words about hope being the most dangerous weapon, and he would wonder if the Empire understood what was coming. He suspected they did not. The Valorians had ruled for so long they had forgotten what it meant to be challenged. They had forgotten that every empire eventually falls, and Earth was going to be the one to push them.